Huh, the hat's just gone. Going back to where it all began. Please wait for me. I'll be there. Everlasting, true love, I am yours. I'll protect you. Forever and ever until I die. Oh. Who's unlucky now? The four-leaf clover key. Yes, it does exist. Well, goody. Well, we've beaten the game. At this point, I only have just a couple of things to show you. Well, hey, I started a new game and made it all the way back here. Here we are. I might as well show you the alternate dialogue options, not that there's much to talk about. We're in a strange room. A cold, lonely, stinky room. We've been over this one. Remember, this is the filth room. Intercom time.
Good morning, Jennifer. How do you feel? Let's have a little chat, shall we?
No.
So that's how you feel, is it? Jennifer, you know you've been a bad, bad girl. And bad girls need to be punished, don't they?
No.
A bad, bad girl who's not sorry, Anyway, I'll be the one giving the orders around here, okay?
Sure.
Clever girl.
I might have done it the first time, whatever.
Now, I'm going to give you your first order. Every month you need to find a gift and bring it to the Aristocrat Club. If you don't, I'll kill you. Is there anything about this that you don't understand?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes?
Well, it doesn't really matter what you say. You see, Jennifer, there are really only two kinds of people in the world. Those who take orders and those who give them. And from now on, I'll be giving the orders. Not fair? Well, dear Jennifer, nothing's fair here. You will follow my orders or else. For I am the prince, and the prince rules. This is your life, but you'll play by my rules. Let the games begin, dear Jennifer.
Ah, see that? There it is. It was a hint all along. Pretty clever. Well, we have a little bit of business to attend to. Make an offering of the rusty sword. The thing it took me all game to get. I can offer it too. No elaborate message, just here's the sword. Knight Rapier. A new Game Plus weapon. Its keen edge is truly a work of art. You know I could wreck shop with this thing. So there it is, probably the best weapon in the game. Haha! One shot. Okay, now I've done what it takes to get brown on my side. Let's take a look at the four-leaf clover room. Let's go in the four-leaf clover room. This is where the game gets its silliest. Because it's costume changing time. It wouldn't be a horror game if not, right? So we have this outfit here. Oh my god, Brown also has a maid outfit. That's fantastic. That's kind of fantastic. Okay, what else can we do? We have this. Alright, Brown's normal. And I get more of just like a different, I guess just like school uniform. We got, is this anything? The white? How about this? Oh, freaky. So we're both like dolls? I have my weird like broom hand. That's goofy as hell. Can I do anything with this white outfit? Also, this ought to be good. Oh my god. And Brown's a crab? I gotta say, sometimes people do goofy costumes, but this is by far the most outrageous one. Ha! Whatcha! I wonder. Oh god, scariest octopus ever. Ooh, don't mess with that. Look at that run. Oh, there it goes. Okay, just straight up nurse, I guess. And Brown looks normal enough. Now, this is my favorite one. Here it comes. This is gonna blow your mind. Wait for it. The octopus is my favorite costume for Jennifer, but this is just funny to me. This is hilarious. I want to get a little bit more of a walk around. Yes.
Brown. Go. Go.
Oh man, it's too good. It's too good.
Come.
Well, there we have it. This was Rule of Rose. It's nice to see that such a miserable, depressing game is able to still have its lighthearted side, with goofy, wacky costumes like Brown as a friggin' chair. This was definitely an interesting and worthwhile game to play. Well, we have done it. We've beaten Rule of Rose. That was some game, wasn't it? Now that we've gotten through it, you can see that while there wasn't anything horribly despicable directly in the game, there were definitely undertones and innuendo. So, while I do not believe that the game deserved to be banned anywhere, I can kinda see why it came under fire. This game was rough. And it also requires a considerable amount of explanation, even though the end of the game was dedicated to explanation. Probably the main thing to bring up is what I saw a lot of people talk about in my comments section. How is Jennifer letting these little kids beat her up, not beat her up, but like push her around? You know, she's like a head taller than anyone. Diana had to stand on a chair to be able to look down at her. Are you kidding me with this? Well, you saw in one of the last installments that Jennifer was not older than everyone. This entire game was done in Jennifer's memories. So she was reminiscing. So she's kind of seeing herself now witnessing events of the past. In actuality, she was about as young as everybody else, as you saw in the black and white Once Upon a Time chapter, and at the very end of the last real fight chapter of the game when you had to take out the imps of the various animals, when all of a sudden she smacked Wendy across the face. That was what Jennifer actually looked like at the time. So what the hell is this game's plot? You can get the idea of what's happening in the now, but what is everything? Well, here we go. Now, you'll recall that when we were in Mr. Wilson's house in the Gingerbread House chapter, there was that poster, not a poster, but it was on the wall. It was that newspaper clipping about how an airship crashed and burned. And this was actually, I looked this up on the wiki, this was actually based on a real-life event. England really did have an airship that horribly crashed, and there were only 8 survivors. So, in Rule of Rose, presumably Jennifer was one of them. However, she lost her parents, most of her possessions, and even her memories in the crash, so she just kind of exists at this point. Now, why did the airship look like a fish? It didn't. You'll remember that in the beginning of the game, when you first go into the orphanage, you see that, like, ticket to entry, and there's the drawing of a fish, and you need the ship pass to get in, fake though it may have been. So, and there also, Mr. Hoffman had that koi, so that could have influenced Jennifer's perception of the ship. There's no flying fish. Sorry to disappoint. Now, timeline time. What had happened was Jennifer was just kind of wandering. Eventually, presumably, she stumbled across Gregory Wilson's house. Now, Wilson was the man who kept showing up throughout the game and providing you with stories, twisted though they may have been. His life was sad. He's a simple farmer, presumably of peas. Talks about peas a lot. Stray dog will have his peas. He was a pea farmer. There you go. Now, he had a son, Joshua, who was very sickly. And Wilson loved his son very much, but eventually, you never really find out what happened to Josh, but he probably died of sickness. And that led Wilson into a crippling depression. When you wandered through his house in the Gingerbread chapter, you would see him writing stories or just kind of looking at his revolver. He was probably considering suicide. He was just going through life in a sort of haze, just going through the motions, until eventually Jennifer came upon his place, and he was like, okay. So he locked Jennifer in the basement and basically had her be Joshua. And I don't know what Jennifer's hairstyle was like, but I suspect he cut her hair, because the girls in the game tended to have longer hair. Although, Eleanor didn't, so I don't know. But in any case, that's why you found the boys' clothes in the bed. Jennifer was basically playing the part of Joshua. For the save file gives you the timeline with months. I forgot how many months, but it was like 3 months. Some kind of months. She was there for a while. Until one day Wendy found her, just looked down at her through the basement, and she was like, hey, this boy looks pretty cute. So she fell in love with Joshua. When she finally discovered that Joshua was not a boy at all, but Jennifer, she was like, well, okay, you're still awesome, we can be super best friends. And they eventually played the part of Prince and Princess, and Jennifer had no problem playing the part of Prince. You could see that much in the game's opening movie. The opening movie had scenes that were never in gameplay. They were to establish things that you couldn't understand yet at the time. But they played Prince and Princess and had a great time. Until one day, somehow, Jennifer found Brown, I guess in that shed. And Wendy is very, very insecure, obviously. So she was not having any of that. How come you're not only being friends with me, right? So eventually, to get revenge, she, I think, got Peter Rabbit. Wasn't quite the same, though, necessarily. But finally, she brought Wendy to the orphanage. You know the beginning of the game where you're on the bus and they just kind of get left there? That wasn't by chance. You were brought there. And it was already set up in such a way that you would have the Aristocrat Club led by the Princess of the Red Rose, and Wendy just had everybody treat Jennifer terribly. So, yes, it was a conspiracy. Now, why they were playing airship and why they, like, the pass on the airship was that fish and everything, well, I don't know about the fish part, but why the you had to have a boarding pass for an airship, that might have been just another way to mess with Jennifer. And even though Jennifer wasn't a fan of, like, anything in the orphanage, you saw the Let's Play, we played the games, we did do what the club wanted of us, even though everyone hated us. You know, you could have just not played. You know, you guys have your fun. But Jennifer went along, even though she hated it. And then that led to the eventual killing of Brown, which was supposed to bring Jennifer back into everybody's good graces, because now that Brown's out of the picture, we can get along again. And now that Jennifer's going to go in the club for real and become a true aristocrat, I'll have everyone stop being mean to you and we'll live happily ever after. What nobody expected is that Jennifer, who was passive and timid the entire time, just cracked Wendy across the face like 6 times. Those things looked like they friggin' hurt, man. And that let Wendy run off crying and effectively deposed the Princess of the Red Rose. You know, the Queen is dead, long live the Queen. However, what we had not known about is that Martha, the maid, had written a letter to Officer Doolittle of the police force saying she noticed this little boy with Gregory Wilson teaching him to act like a dog and do tricks, and it's freaking creepy. And Officer Doolittle, living up to his name, was like, I don't know, whatever, man, sorry, can't investigate it. And congratulations, that led to bad things later on. See, Wendy posed as Joshua, and that kind of got Mr. Wilson to do whatever he wanted at that point, because it's like, oh, my son, yeah, I'll do whatever for you. So that's the game you're playing? Okay, fine. So Wendy finally came back to the orphanage after the other employees had left, more on that later, and as Joshua, she brought Stray Dog to just take everybody out, which he did. Bunch of dead children, straight up. And after that, Wendy sicked Stray Dog on Jennifer until finally Wendy realized, oh my god, I've done a horrible thing. I got caught up in the moment, but wow, I'm terrible. Okay, this needs to stop. Here, I took Mr. Wilson's gun, do what you have to. But guess what? Wendy took off her wig, and then Mr. Wilson saw her for not Joshua, grabbed her. She's out of the game. So presumably he killed her too. Then he comes after Jennifer, and he realizes, oh my god, my kid's dead, and I've done these horrible things. Whoa, and he has a moment of clarity, at which point Jennifer gives him his own gun, which he'd been considering using the whole game, and he finally puts himself out of his own misery. And Jennifer is left alone in the rain with several corpses. Whoa! That is some freaking story, man. That is out there. That sucks. Now, as for the people in the orphanage, you've generally gotten their personalities down. A lot of them conspired against Jennifer. Diana twice. She killed Eleanor's bird, and she tore up Meg's love letter. Meg and or Eleanor got Diana in trouble once by taking Mr. Hoppin's fish and killing it. But then we have the adults. Mr. Hoffman, not the greatest head of the orphanage. Everyone calls Jennifer dirty and filthy, and even he gets in on that. I don't think it's for the kids' benefit, but man, that hurts after you see all that other stuff going on. Also, there's one character we barely met. This is my fault. It was during the Clover chapter, but if you just want to go with the plot, you can miss a lot, and I didn't really meet Hoffman or Clara, the frightened princess. I think you might have seen her like once in the whole game as regular Clara. She has issues. You know, you've gotten personality aspects of the other kids in the game. I'm not going to go too much into them. Maybe a little less on the boys, but Diana, Meg, Eleanor, you've gotten their ideas. But Clara's a whole other level. I think she might be the eldest one there. If not her, then Diana, but she's one of the oldest. But she has freaking problems. There is a pretty good chance that she might be having unwilling sex with Mr. Hoffman. Now, we didn't really get to experience any of this, but if you go in the sick room really early in the game and you search this one set of drawers, she'll run up to you and be like, no, don't open that. And Mr. Hoffman will be like, which could imply that that might be some evidence of their goings-on. Additionally, in the sick room, the bed, the foot of the bed is kind of propped up with pillows, so you'd be lying like this with your feet up, which might imply childbirth. It's not really set in stone, but there are little hints like that. Additionally, Clara was a boss, the freaking worst boss, the mermaid princess. You don't really get a very good look at her outside of the cutscene she appears in, and that's brief. But if you really want to look closely at her, obviously the way she's a mermaid is she's bound by the legs. Wow. Rule of Rose's theme, if anything else, I got this from HG 101, is bondage. Ropes freaking everywhere, which makes sense because everyone's stuck here. But Clara, she's just stuck in the sick room, and she's kind of hanging by ropes. That's how she attacks you. Additionally, the gills she has as a mermaid look pretty awful. They look like wounds, which might be indicative of self-harm because of her horrible situation. There's unused audio, which you can look up in the game's files, where she's having like a breakdown saying, I don't want to go outside, but I don't want to stay here either. Like, she's clearly not happy. Also, her attack is vomiting, which is also possibly indicative of morning sickness. So, yeah, Mr. Hoffman. Wow, man. And even going further with Mr. Hoffman, you saw him get all grabby with Diana, who said, oof, disgusting, after that, so that's another hint of that. And Diana herself, you only get this from the opening movie of the game, but where she does that curtsy and lifts her skirt, like, way up high, like up here, you could see she has a bloody bandage on her leg. That could have been something Mr. Hoffman did, or possibly also self-harm, in a nice place where no one could see it. Not to mention, also in the opening movie of the game, there's a part where Meg pricks herself on the rose's thorn, and Diana sensually sucks the blood off. That's a little too mature for something a little kid would do. She had to have learned that either from Clara, or possibly from Mr. Hoffman himself. Maybe he has some weird fetish. Speaking of which, Clara always worked for him, and she was considering picking up the place after he had left, but there's another scene we did not get to see, I'm sorry, where Clara's on hands and knees just cleaning the floor, but it's in Mr. Hoffman's room, and I don't know how practical her cleaning is. Her butt's kind of up in like a sexy cleaning pose, and Mr. Hoffman has this really creepy line like, oh, there's another spot of dust over there. Why don't you give it a wipe? And it's just like, ugh. There's creepiness going on, man. Now, as for Mr. Hoffman's own perspective, he got fed up with the place real quick. About as soon as Jennifer got in. Is it our fault? It really isn't, although you can't blame him for thinking so. We show up and the kids turn into hellions. Well, it turns out that it was because of Wendy's conspiracy, but it was driving Mr. Hoffman freaking crazy. So he just left. So when Stray Dog showed up, the patients are running the asylum. It's just the kids in this orphanage. It's full-on freaking Lord of the Flies at that point. So you're stuck with kids and a freaking murderer who's going around killing all of them. Like, oh my god. So have fun with that story. As for the end of the game, though, you, of course, are really now hit with the fact that this is Jennifer's memories. Keep in mind, all may not be entirely as it seems. Jennifer could be something of an unreliable narrator. Now, is everyone pure evil and she's the only beacon of hope in this entire orphanage? Probably not. That doesn't tend to be how real life works. However, you can tell that there are some holes in Jennifer's story, like the entire game, where you're seeing her in an adult's body, or at least an older girl's body, but also when Stray Dog shows up. Stray Dog, if you stood him up on two legs, that is clearly not the same character model as Mr. Wilson. No way. So the implication there is that Jennifer was a little kid. The adult probably seemed bigger and scarier to a kid's mind. There's no freaking way Stray Dog was that freakishly large when we clearly saw that he was not that big every other point in the game. So there's little hints like that, where you're getting probably a good story, but there might be a couple holes here and there. Nothing to probably shatter credibility, but take it a bit with a grain of salt. Now, as for the very end of the game, at that point, you're kind of trying to preserve your memory of Brown as best as you can, where you just leave the orphanage, see Puppy Brown, and instead Instead of taking him out and starting the whole chain of horrible events, you leave him in there, making him sad, but giving you a bit of peace of mind, because you can forever preserve Brown in your mind as alive and well. That is a genuinely sad ending, and that stuck with me for a long time when I first played this game. This game has a lot of symbolism going on, and even after it explains everything, it wasn't everything, after all. A lot of this information I only discovered for the first time when I looked it up for the purpose of this video. But this game's freaking deep. Not for everybody. The gameplay is just straight up not fun. I'll say it right here. If the game is not enjoyable to play. But it is really good at what it does, and I would say it is worth playing, or at least watching, if you don't want to deal with the game itself. There's a lot of story going on, and I love story in my games, and this game tells it very well. You know, it takes things like child bullying, but like, for the most part, low-key child bullying, like hazing, and the idea of stray dog walking in on all fours, and it makes them creepy and traumatic. You know, like, Jennifer gets psychologically bullied the entire freaking game, and it looks way worse than whatever you might have imagined bullying to be. It reminds me of that joke from Seinfeld, where Elaine hears about wedgies, you know, pulling up your underwear for the first time, and she was like, that's so freaking dumb. Like, I can't believe boys do something so immature. To which Jerry replies, well, what do girls do? And Elaine says, oh, we just tease them until they develop an eating disorder. Like, that's basically this game. Ruins your freaking life. And it frames this stuff really well. It shows you how bad it can be in a child's mind. And some of the stuff, of course, transcends that. Like killing a dog. That's bad for anybody. But the game just, the way it handles it is unique, and all the more traumatic for doing so. But then, you do get a bit of a lighter note. You get the additional costumes, some of which are freaking hilarious, like the octopus one and Brown as a chair. I don't know how you even come up with that. Just Brown as a chair. That's amazing. So this game does give you a little bit of levity at the end. Kind of like Silent Hill. You beat the game, oh my god, that was rough. But if you ever want to play it again, you could get a really silly joke ending. And oh, don't worry, it's just a game. Have fun. Rule of Rose gives you that. And it's a good thing it does, because, man, this just sticks with you. This game was a blast to play, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Normally I say as much as I enjoyed playing it. This time I'll say more than I enjoyed playing it. Thank you all very much for your support. And special thanks, of course, go to DJ Gamer, Me Gamer, and Orionka for their awesome title cards. This was a friggin' experience. The game, in its own way, was a blast. And coming up next is going to be my 100th Let's Play, and we're going to tackle an amazing Sega RPG. Thank you all once again, and until next time, everyone.